This video is going to be a follow-up to the previous video titled Narcissist, a Spiritual Perspective. And I just want to mention a few things that I left out of the previous video. The first is that I probably didn't mention it, but if you are in a narcissistic relationship that is abusive, then I'm not saying stick around. I'm not saying to stick around and just take the abuse. Obviously, you need to get out of that relationship. You need to make sure that you are safe. So I was not implying that it's okay to simply accept abuse and to stay in that situation. So that's out of the way. There's a few other kind of qualities that we can see. Qualities, or more accurately, is conditioned patterns when we are viewing narcissists. And in the previous video, I give you my spiritual perspective on narcissists, and I see that narcissistic patterns are really immature patterns. A narcissist is really an immature ego. It's an immature sense of self. And this is what I explained in the first video. So what we see with children being immature, we are actually seeing very much the exact same patterns in adults that we are labeling as narcissists. And this labeling of narcissists is very overused. And someone actually commented on the first video saying exactly this, that it's very overused, and it's something that we use this label to basically identify people and their actions that we don't agree with. And anything that we don't agree with, then we simply label them as that's narcissistic, or that person's a narcissist, right? And this is very childish. This is very immature. And this creates further separation, right? Is this labeling, right? The more we label, the more separation that we're creating. The more labels we use, the more division we are creating. Think of it like a binder, right? When you want to label certain pages, you're creating division in the binder. And that's what we're doing conceptually when we are starting with labels and labeling everything. That's a narcissist. That's narcissistic patterns, right? And like I said, it's easy to see these patterns outside of you, right, in your projected reality, but it's hard to see it within yourself. And the fact that you're unable to see it within yourself is actually, it's hard to mature, because the maturity really comes from the awareness. As we become more and more aware, meaning we are able to see these patterns within ourselves, then we're able to, one, take the responsibility and then start changing these patterns, because we become conscious of them. It's all about making the unconscious conscious, right? So awareness is key. So what are some of these other patterns that we're seeing in children? When we think of children, and remember, I'm not saying children are bad or anything. I've got three young children, and this is what actually makes it very easy for me to see this, because as they're growing up, they're very young, but as they're developing that sense of self, I can see that it's just such an immature ego, right? It's an immature sense of self, and I'm seeing it in my kids, and then I'm seeing it, in the collective. I'm also seeing it in myself, right? So when we deny that, oh, these people have those narcissistic patterns, but it's not me, no, then that's, again, it's this denial. It's this dishonesty, right? And I think I mentioned that in the first video, that one of these characteristics, one of these patterns is dishonesty, right? Dishonesty. When you look at kids, right? what do we say? Always tell the truth. You got to tell the truth, right? But again, as parents, we're usually lying. We're lying right in front of our kids. We're lying to our kids. So this is constant this hypocrisy, right? Which is also another pattern, right? Being a hypocrite. It's very narcissistic, you could say. It's very immature to be dishonest like that. We see this like tyranny, this, high chair tyrant. If you ever have a young toddler in the high chair, slamming its hands down, I want this, me want that, right? Screaming for everything, right? It's very demanding. It's like a little king in the high chair that's just demanding of things. Serve me, right? This is very narcissistic, right? Like I said, I don't want to continue using that word, but we can just say it's very immature. But we're seeing that grown adults are very similar to this high chair tyrant, right? Very demanding, very enslaving. We're seeing this in, look at just on an individual level with people, but we're also seeing this like in government, right? Enslaving the population, demanding, controlling, right? The immaturity of this strong belief in control and wanting to control the outer circumstances. In the first video, I talk about how it's always my way or the highway. If I don't get it my way, I'm going to throw a tantrum. And because I want it my way, then I want to control everyone around me. And then I'll use tactics. If I'm not getting it my way, well, then I'll throw a tantrum. So I'll rage. Or I'll play victim. Make you feel guilty. I'll manipulate your feelings. Use your fault. Make you feel like you hurt me. And if you hurt me, then I'm the victim. And you punish me. Right? So a lot of this is, we're seeing it in children. We're seeing this strong sense of selfishness in children. Very selfish, right? They don't want responsibility. They want the control. It's me, my way, all about me. Always trying to control, always trying to acquire things, objects, to build up their sense of self. They become codependent on the objects. I want this, I want that, I want this. No, that's mine. Possessiveness. That's mine. You can't have that. It's mine. Then develops greed. Because I'm possessing all my toys and I'm selfish. I'm only thinking myself. Well, I'm not going to be generous. I'm not going to share. This is mine. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose what I've collected. There's a fear of loss. And you better not take these because I've created such a strong sense of what's actually weak. I've created my sense of self based off of my codependency on the materials that I possess. And I'm so attached to my things that if you take something that's mine, it feels like you're taking away a part of me because these have become my sense of self. They're supporting my identity. They're building my identity. My possessions actually become my identity. So I'm so afraid of losing it. There's a lot of abuse in narcissistic relationships. Some of them, right? There's different flavors of the narcissistic relationships, but the violence, it's very immature. We see that violence with kids. I see my middle guy, he's 5, he goes and hits the little guy who's 3. This is my toy. Hits him, right? You can't hit him. Don't hit him. He's your brother, right? Share, get along. It's not your toys. It's all of our toys, right? Sharing, right? Well, he took my toy, right? Again, mine. So I smacked him, right? Right. So but we're seeing the same thing with adults, right? On a bigger level, we see this with wars, right? The violence, the rage, the violence. They took what's mine. Well, what was yours? That land. Well, I'm going to hit them back, right? Because this is my land. This is my identity. I'm this territory. This is me. This is my identity. I'm this nationality. This is my nation. And I don't want to become threatened. And if I feel like I'm being threatened, well, I'm going to attack you, right? So it's very similar. We see this, again, let's keep this more relationship stuff instead of like talking global, but we're seeing it. I'm just showing you how it's seen on all levels. It's seen on all levels. But if we can see it for what it is this immaturity. This immaturity that then is expressed, that because there hasn't been the maturity, the lack of maturity, the lack of that evolution, then we're seeing that it's just compounding, essentially. It's compounding, because when my little guy hits the other little guy, then it's like, hey, you don't hit your brother, right? But if he doesn't mature and he continues to hit, then when he's, a grown man and he hits somebody, he's going to hurt. He's going to really hurt somebody, right? Right? That's the thing. As a 5-year-old, he might not hurt the little guy, punching him in the arm or whatever. But as the body gets bigger and stronger and more powerful, that's going to hurt somebody. Those type of actions are going to hurt somebody. And those type of actions, when you look at it, they're immature actions. Someone selfish, right? Being selfish, someone took something that you're claiming is yours and you hit them, right? Well, so this tyranny, this selfishness, this greed, this possessiveness, this control, this domination, these are a lot of those. What we're seeing is when we look at, and it's overused, this labeling of narcissism. It's overused, but that's what we're seeing. She's my girlfriend. And if you come close, then I'm going to feel threatened. And I'm going to hit you. I'm going to come after you and get revenge. Because this is my territory, right? This is my woman, or this is my man, right? So we see this, right? Seeing other things as objects. I need this, I need that. Here's my big to-do list. Get me this, get me that, right? This tyranny. Well, I'm going to enslave my girlfriend or my boyfriend. Get me these things. Because then I'm building up my sense of identity based off of these things. I'm selfish. It's mine. Right? I feel so insecure. There's all this insecurity. I feel insecure, and I'm going to hold on to things to try and secure myself. The more things I hold on to, purse and phone and vacation and home and second home and money and all these things. Well, now shouldn't I feel secure? I'm holding on to all this, but I feel insecure. I still feel insecure. Doesn't matter how much I hold on to. I continue to get greedy greedy, more selfish, more possessive, more controlling. But again, it's like this lack of maturity that we're seeing, that we're not in control. Nothing is yours. Right? That's what we learn. That's, as you're maturing, you start seeing these things. You start maturing. You start maturing. You start realizing that the more you're holding on to, the more you're suffering. As you mature, you start realizing that everything that you experience is always changing. Everything that you experience in life is impermanent. Therefore, anything that you hold on to, what's the point? It's impermanent. It cannot provide stability because by its nature, it's impermanent. It's coming and going. It's changing. It's appearing and disappearing. It's unstable. So let's keep this just basically about the narcissistic traits instead of, I'll make another video about more of the maturing process and the realizations and the evolution, spiritual evolution. I'll keep that for a separate video. But we're really seeing this. A lot of these, you combine, video 1 and 2, you're seeing a lot of these tendencies, right? It's like these immature tendencies. When we hear about like, these are narcissistic traits, it's really immature tendencies, immature patterns. That really, when we look at it, it's like they're passed down from parents to kids, and then because the parents aren't really, yes, they're parents, but they're like immature parents, that then those patterns continue to be passed on to the children who never mature, and then those children then become parents, and then it's very cyclical. We're not seeing that. But if you're watching this type of video, then it shows that you are maturing, that you're awakening, that you're going through the spiritual evolution. So let's leave it at that. Hopefully the 2 videos gives you just a different perspective. It's like I said, that it's a very confusing perspective, and it's very much like we're purging a lot of these narcissistic tendencies. These immaturities are basically being purged. We're seeing more and more of it, but at the same time, we're still immature, and we're pointing the finger. He's got it, she's got it, it's them and not me, right? Still blaming others, but not accepting, not taking responsibility to look within ourselves and find it within ourselves, not accepting that it's in me, right? Because acceptance is developed as a result of maturity. My kids don't want to accept anything. You want to accept responsibility? No. Want to accept this? No. Want to accept it? They don't want any of that. No. Right? So it's very much like this rejection, right? It's rejecting reality, right? When you're rejecting reality, it's immature. Accepting reality is maturity. So let's leave it at that. Hopefully you liked it. I'll see you in the next one.